Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are wading into waters that are arguably the most important you can ever step into, yet they are waters most people don't even realize they are swimming in.
That's a great way to put it.
We are tackling the question that sits behind every other question you ask. Why do I think the way that I do?
It's the ultimate meta question, isn't it? It sounds so simple, almost deceptively so. But once you pull on that one thread, the whole sweater of reality starts to unravel, or hopefully knit itself back together.
Exactly. We are looking at the invisible machinery of the mind today. And we've got a massive stack of documents on the table. We're pulling from a piece called Why Do I Think Like I Do? Another one, The Clash of Worldviews Matrix. And we're going to be leaning pretty heavily on some really robust excerpts from Paul Little's Know Why You Believe.
Right, and the mission today is very specific.
Yeah.
We aren't just doing philosophy 101 for the sake of it, to sound smart at a dinner party.
No, not at all.
We are unpacking the invisible frameworks, what we call worldviews,
Yeah.
that shape absolutely everyone's reality.
And specifically, we are analyzing how a clear understanding of Christian theism contrasts with all the other modern philosophies swimming around us. The goal here, based on these texts, is to see how that clarity actually helps a Christian live with more devotion, more confidence, and frankly, more sanity in the daily grind.
Right, because if you don't know why you believe what you believe, you're at the mercy of whoever shouts the loudest or, whoever have the most compelling TikTok video.
Speaking of shouting, I have to kick this off with the weirdest connection I found in the research notes. I was reading through the prep material last night, and I honestly felt like I was hallucinating.
Oh, I have a feeling I know which rabbit hole you went down.
I'm looking at these notes, and I see the Berenstain Bears, the children's book character?
Papa Bear, Sister Bear.
Right, them.
Yeah.
In the same conceptual bucket as the prog rock band King Crimson and the philosophy of nihilism. That feels like a typo. It has to be a mistake.
It does feel like a mistake, right? Papa Bear and 20th Century Despair don't usually mix. But no, it's not a typo. It is actually the perfect entry point to understand what a worldview is.
Okay, you have to connect the dots for me. How in the world do the bears fit into this?
It's all about the lens. A worldview is like a pair of glasses. You don't look at the glasses, you look through them. Everything you see, everything gets filtered through those lenses.
Okay, I'm with you so far.
So take the Berenstain Bears. There is a quote highlighted in the source from one of their books. Nature is all that is.
Sounds innocent enough, just, looking at trees and birds and squirrels.
It sounds lovely, doesn't it? But philosophically, that is a loaded gun. If nature is all that is, you have just made a massive metaphysical claim. You've just ruled out God, the soul, the supernatural, ultimate meaning, all while reading a bedtime story. You were looking through the lens of naturalism.
Wow, okay. And King Crimson?
King Crimson, specifically their song Epitaph, is looking through the exact same lens, but seeing the terrifying conclusion of it. They sing, "The wall on which the prophets wrote is cracking at the seams." They're describing the total collapse of meaning. If nature is all there is, then the prophets were wrong, and we are completely, utterly alone.
So the bears are the happy, naive start of that worldview.
Kind of the innocent entry point, yeah.
And King Crimson is the depressing, terrifying end of it.
Precisely. Same worldview, just different stages of grief about it.
That is a lot to unpack. Okay, before we go further into the bears and the bands, let's stabilize the ship.
Yeah.
We need to define this core concept properly. What exactly is a worldview according to these documents?
Simply put, a worldview is a set of presuppositions. It's the assumptions we hold, and this is key, consciously or subconsciously, about the basic makeup of our world.
So things you believe without even knowing you believe them?
Yes. The documents lay out that everyone has one. You can't opt out. It's the framework that answers the big four questions. Where did I come from? What went wrong with the world? How can it be fixed? And what is my role in all of this?
It's the operating system of the brain. You said that before, and I think that's the perfect analogy.
It really is. And the scary part, which the text highlights, is that most of us just absorb this operating system from the culture around us, from movies, from school, from music, from our friends, without ever stopping to check the source code. We just assume our view of reality is just the way things are.
There's a story in the texts, The Invisible Gardener, that really drove this home for me. It perfectly illustrates how two people can see the exact same facts but come to completely opposite conclusions.
Oh, that is a classic parable, a really useful one. It involves two explorers who stumble upon a clearing in the jungle. In this clearing, they see flowers growing beautifully, but there are also weeds.
So a mix of order and chaos.
Exactly. One explorer, the believer, says, There must be a gardener who tends this plot. The other, the skeptic, disagrees, saying, no, there is no gardener, it's just nature.
A natural process.
Right. So, being good empiricists, they decide to test it. They set up camp. They watch. They wait. No gardener is ever seen.
So the skeptic says, see, I told you, no gardener.
But the believer isn't swayed at all. He just qualifies his belief. He says, well, perhaps he is an invisible gardener.
Oh, okay, so they up the ante.
They do. They escalate the test. They put up an electric fence around the clearing. They bring in bloodhounds to smell them. They set up sound detectors, motion sensors, everything.
And still nothing. No shock on the fence, no barking dogs, no alarms going off.
Right. Not a peep. So the skeptic finally says, with a bit of frustration, look, there is no gardener. But the believer, still unshaken, says, no, there is a gardener, but he's invisible, intangible, insensitive to electric shocks, and has no scent. But he tends the flowers.
And the skeptic's response is the kicker. This is the whole point of the story.
It is. He asks, what is the difference between an invisible, intangible, undetectable gardener and no gardener at all?
Boom. And that is the clash. They both see the flowers, which represent design and beauty, and the weeds, which represent suffering and chaos. The data is identical. The only difference is the presupposition they brought into the jungle with them.
One is committed to the idea of a creator, an intelligent cause. The other is committed to the idea of materialism, that there are only unguided natural causes.
This really sets up the framework for our whole deep dive today. We aren't really arguing about the facts, the flowers and the weeds are there for everyone to see. We are arguing about the interpretation.
The lens.
The lens. And the source material provides this incredible chart, literally called the Clash of Worldviews matrix, that divides all of reality into three primary categories. It's like, I don't know, picking your character class in a video game, but the stakes are infinite.
That's a great analogy. And the document argues that almost every philosophy you bump into on the street or in a university lecture hall or on social media fits into one of these three big buckets: naturalism, pantheism, or theism.
Let's break these down one by one. This is really the meat of it. We'll start with lens number one, naturalism. Based on my reading of the source material, this seems to be the default setting for modern Western education.
It absolutely is. I mean, if you go to a public university or watch a nature documentary on TV, you are just swimming in naturalism.
So what is it exactly?
Naturalism essentially says that the material world is all there is: matter and energy. That's it. There's no supernatural, no God, no spirits, no soul, no heaven, no hell. What you see is what you get.
This is where that Carl Sagan quote comes in, right? The one that sounded so majestic and awe-inspiring when I was a kid watching Cosmos.
Yes. The cosmos is all that is, or ever was, or ever will be.
It sounds like a scientific conclusion, doesn't it? Like it was proven in a lab.
It does. It sounds completely authoritative. But it's not science. I mean, think about it. Science investigates the physical world. It cannot, by its own methods, prove that only the physical world exists. That's a philosophical leap. That Sagan quote is a statement of faith. It's a theological claim that the theos, which is Greek for God, is actually the cosmos.
Okay, so under this lens of naturalism, let's run it through the big four questions. First one, where do we come from?
Chance and time. Evolution, but specifically unguided philosophical evolution. We are cosmic accidents. There was no plan. The right combination of chemicals in the primordial soup eventually sparked life, which, over billions of years, eventually became you.
Which leads to a pretty grim view of human nature. The source quotes Richard Dawkins, who is, sort of the high priest of this view in our time. He describes humans as biological machines or survival machines.
And we have to really let that sink in. It's a profound statement. If naturalism is true, then you are a machine made of meat and electricity. Your thoughts are just chemical reactions fizzing in your brain, your love for your spouse, for your children. It's just a survival instinct programmed into you by your genes to propagate the species.
That really drains the romance out of things a bit, doesn't it?
It drains the meaning out of things. It reduces all of our highest aspirations to just biochemistry.
So if we are just machines, what is the problem with the world? Why do we have wars and crime and suffering? What went wrong?
Well, in naturalism, the problem isn't sin or evil in a spiritual or moral sense. A machine can't sin. A toaster doesn't sin when it burns your bread, it just malfunctions.
It's a glitch in the system.
Exactly. So evil is viewed as a glitch. It's caused by bad genetics, a poor environment, lack of education, or economic disparity. It's a problem with the machine's programming or its external conditions.
So the solution, logically, is just better engineering, better social engineering.
Precisely. This is why naturalism loves social engineering. The solution is always more education, better politics, more technology, better economic systems. If we can just tweak the machine's environment enough, we can create utopia. We can fix the glitches.
And the goal of life for the individual machine.
Self-fulfillment. You hear this all the time. You do you. Live your truth. Find your passion. And why? Because there is no higher truth to live for. There's no objective purpose given to you by a creator, so you have to invent your own purpose because the universe didn't give you one.
But the documents point out a pretty heavy emotional consequence to this. It's not all live your truth and be happy. I mean, if we are just accidents, what is the actual point? Where does this road end?
And this is where the source material is devastatingly honest. It quotes Dr. James Watson. Now, this isn't just some guy. This is the Nobel Prize winner for co-discovering the structure of DNA. A brilliant mind, a pillar of naturalism.
So what does he say?
He says, and I'm quoting, "I don't think we're here for anything. Life must be pretty bleak, but I'm anticipating a good lunch."
Anticipating a good lunch.
That's it. That is the ceiling of hope in a purely naturalistic worldview, according to one of its greatest minds.
That just stops me in my tracks. You have one of the smartest men in modern history who unlocked the very code of life itself, and his conclusion is, it's all meaningless, but at least the sandwich is going to be good.
It's bleak, but you have to admit, it's consistent. If there is no God, then yes, eat a good lunch, enjoy the sunset, because that is literally as good as it gets. Then you die, your brain chemistry stops, and the universe eventually burns out, and nobody will remember you or the sandwich.
Well, on that cheerful note, let's pivot. Let's look at lens number 2, pantheism. This feels like the pendulum swinging to the complete opposite extreme.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
If naturalism says only matter exists, pantheism says only God exists. The word itself tells you. Pan means all, theos means God. God is all and all is God. You, me, this table, the stars. It's all one divine reality.
This is the realm of Eastern philosophy, right? Hinduism, Buddhism, and a lot of the New Age spirituality that's become really popular in the West.
Correct. In a pop culture sense, people might think of the Force in Star Wars. That's a kind of westernized, simplified pantheism, an energy field that binds everything together. But in the classical Eastern sense, it's even more radical. It says that the physical distinctions we see, that you are you and I am me, that the chair is separate from the table, that's all an illusion. The Hindu concept for this is Maya.
So wait, if I stub my toe on the table, that feels pretty real.
The pain is real to your consciousness, yes. But the idea that the table is a truly separate object from you is, in this view, the illusion. Ultimately, everything is one. We are all just temporary manifestations of a single divine consciousness.
Okay, so if the physical world is an illusion, what is the problem, according to this worldview? What went wrong? It can't be bad genetics.
No, the problem is ignorance. We have forgotten who we truly are. We think we are these individual little drops of water, separate and alone, but we are actually the entire ocean. We just need to wake up and realize our divinity.
And the solution, then, is enlightenment.
Right. Practices like meditation, yoga, chanting. These aren't just for exercise or relaxation in this worldview. They are techniques to dissolve the ego, to eliminate desire, to realize that the individual you doesn't really exist. The goal is to merge back into the one, like a drop of water returning to the sea.
There's a fascinating note in the source material about the history of science and pantheism. It suggests that modern science, as we know it, stalled in cultures that were dominated by this view. Why would that be?
It's a logical consequence of the lens. I mean, think about what science requires. It requires you to believe that the physical world is, first, real. Second, that it is distinct from God, so you can study it objectively. And third, that it is orderly and follows laws.
And pantheism questions all of that.
Exactly. If you believe the physical world is a dream or an illusion, Maya, why would you spend your life cataloging beetles or studying the laws of gravity? You'd be starting a dream. The logical thing to do would be to spend your time trying to escape the physical world through meditation, not investigate it.
That is a huge insight. Ideas have massive consequences for civilization, not just for individuals. Okay, so that brings us to lens number 3, theism. Specifically, as the documents frame it, Christian theism. How does this filter answer the big 4?
Theism starts with a fundamental distinction that neither of the others makes. It says God is the creator and the universe is the creation. They are not the same thing. God is the painter. The universe is the painting.
So nature is real. It's not an illusion like in pantheism.
Correct.
But it's not God, like in naturalism.
Yeah.
It's something God made.
Exactly. And within that creation, humans occupy a very specific, very special place. We aren't cosmic accidents, and we aren't just God in disguise. We are created imago Dei, in the image of God. This gives us intrinsic value, dignity, and a purpose that naturalism simply can't offer.
But clearly things are messed up. We still have the weeds in the garden. What's the diagnosis in theism? What went wrong?
The fall. This is a concept unique to the biblical worldview. The problem isn't that we are uneducated, like naturalism says. It isn't that we are ignorant of our own divinity, like pantheism says. The problem is sin. It's personal. It's a moral and spiritual rebellion. It's a misuse of our free will. We broke the relationship with the designer.
And if the problem is that deep, if it's a broken relationship and a corrupted human nature, then a good lunch or more education or even meditating harder isn't going to fix it.
Exactly. The problem is far too profound. As the old saying goes, education without redemption just makes you a clever devil. You can teach a sinner nuclear physics, and now you just have a much more dangerous sinner. The solution has to come from the outside. It requires atonement. It requires the Creator stepping into the creation to fix what's broken.
And the purpose, the end goal.
The old Shorter Catechism puts it so beautifully. Man's chief end is to glorify God and to enjoy Him forever.
Enjoy Him. I've always stuck on that word. It changes the vibe completely. It's not just obey Him or fear Him. It's enjoy.
It implies a relationship, a deep, personal, joyful relationship. You don't enjoy a machine, and you don't enjoy becoming a drop of water that loses its personality. You enjoy a person.
So we have the matrix. We have the three big options on the table, but the document titled, "Why Do I Think Like I Do?" doesn't just leave it there. It traces a historical timeline. It explains how our culture, Western culture specifically, shifted from one to the other. And reading it is like watching a train wreck in slow motion over 500 years.
It is the slippery slope from theism to postmodernism. And it's so important to understand this history. If you can get your head around this timeline, you can understand why your neighbor looks at you like you have three heads when you talk about something like absolute truth.
So walk us through the crash. Where does it start?
Well, we start in the medieval and early modern period. For centuries, in the West, theism was the air people breathed. It wasn't just one option among many. It was the foundation for everything, for law, for science, for art. God was the creator. Truth was absolute. It was knowable. The church was the center of the village, literally and metaphorically.
The solid ground phase.
Right. But then come the crises. You have the Renaissance, which starts to put man, not God, at the center of the universe. You have the Reformation, which, while good and necessary in many ways, it did question the ultimate authority of the institutional church, leading to more questions about where authority lies. You have the discovery of the New World. All of this new information from all over the globe creates a crisis of certainty. Skepticism starts to creep in. What do I really know? How can I be sure?
And this philosophical snowball eventually leads to the death of God.
By the time we get to the late 19th century, brilliant and frankly terrifying philosophers like Friedrich Nietzsche saw the writing on the wall. They realized that the culture had effectively killed God by replacing him with science and human reason.
And this is where we loop back to King Crimson.
Yes, the wall on which the prophets wrote is cracking at the seams. Nietzsche famously announced God is dead. But, and this is so crucial, he wasn't celebrating.
People always think he was throwing a party, like, yay, we're free.
Not at all. He was terrified. He saw himself as a prophet of doom. He realized that if you remove the foundation, God, the whole building of Western morality, of human rights, of meaning itself, completely collapses. He predicted that the 20th century would be the bloodiest in human history because without God, everything just becomes a power struggle, the will to power.
And he was right. I mean, World War I, World War II, the Holocaust, Stalin, Mao, Pol Pot. The body count is staggering.
He nailed it. The source document puts it starkly. For the true nihilist, the person who truly believes there is no God and therefore no objective meaning, value, or purpose, the only real philosophical question left is suicide. If there is no meaning, why stick around?
That is incredibly heavy. And obviously, society couldn't live with that. Most people don't want to commit suicide. They want to live. So they needed a way out of the despair of nihilism.
Enter existentialism. This is the leap of faith, but not in a religious sense. It's the admission. Okay, the universe is meaningless, nihilism is true, but I can't live like that. I find it unlivable. So I'm going to create my own meaning.
I'm going to pretend. It's an act of sheer will.
Essentially, I will decide that painting is meaningful, or I will decide that helping the poor is meaningful. But the source analysis calls this inconsistent and unlivable. Because deep down, you know you're just making it up. It's a placebo. You're whistling past the graveyard.
Which brings us to today. The final stop on the train, for now at least, postmodernism.
Postmodernism is the child of existentialism. It looks at all these people creating their own meaning and says, see, since we are all just making up our own meaning, there is no big T truth. There's only my truth and your truth.
And we hear this constantly. This is the wallpaper of our culture. That's true for you, but not for me.
It's the air we breathe. In postmodernism, words don't even have fixed meanings. That's a concept called deconstruction. Communication is often viewed as just a power play. If I say this is the truth, the postmodernist hears, I am trying to control you by imposing my narrative on you.
And the source material points out the new sin in this framework. If there is no absolute truth, what is the one thing you are absolutely not allowed to do?
Judge anyone else. Intolerance is the only sin left. You can do anything you want as long as you affirm that everyone else can do anything they want. The only evil is claiming that there is such a thing as evil.
The document mentions John Lennon's song Imagine as the anthem for this entire worldview.
It really is. Imagine there's no heaven, no hell below us, above us only sky. It sounds so peaceful, so utopian, but think about what the lyrics are actually saying. No hell. That means no ultimate justice for Hitler. No heaven. That means no ultimate hope for the martyr. It's actually a song about the ultimate emptiness, just dressed up in a really pretty melody.
And the other one they mention is Dust in the Wind by the band Kansas.
All we are is dust in the wind. That is pure naturalism set to an acoustic guitar. It sounds deep and profound when you're 17, but what it's actually saying is, nothing you do matters. You're just a temporary collection of particles.
So, if we're going to push back against that whole historical trend, if we're going to tell people, no, you aren't just dust in the wind, we need to talk about rationality. A lot of people today think faith and reason are opposites. Like, you have to check your brain at the door when you walk into church.
The schoolboy definition of faith.
What's that?
It's from a story in the source material. A Sunday school teacher asks her class, what is faith? And a young boy confidently answers, faith is believing what you know isn't true.
Ouch! That hurts. But that is honestly how many people see it. A blind leap into the dark. Willful ignorance.
But the documents argue, and this is so important, that the biblical definition is completely different. Faith is not a blind leap. It's a step into the light. It is trust based on evidence. The phrase the author uses, which I love, is, don't kiss your brains goodbye.
I love that. So, okay, let's look at the rationality. Paul Little's book, which we're leaning on here, argues that faith is only as valid as its object.
Right, this is a crucial distinction. It's not about the amount of faith you have. He uses the analogy of a frozen lake. You can have a huge amount of faith. You can be the most sincere, passionate believer in the world, and you step out onto the ice. But if the ice is only 1 inch thick, what happens?
You're going in, you get wet, or worse, your faith didn't save you.
Right. Conversely, you can have shaky, timid faith. You can be terrified, crawling on your hands and knees, trembling the whole way. But if the ice is 2 feet thick...
it holds you, no problem.
Exactly. It's the object of your faith, the thickness of the ice that saves you, not the quantity of your faith. So the rational question isn't, how much faith do I have? The rational question is the Christian faith based on thick ice? Is there good evidence to support it?
Let's test the thickness of the ice then. The documents bring up the intelligent design argument. This is a big one.
This is the classic teleological argument going all the way back. But the famous modern version is William Paley's watchmaker. The idea is, if you are walking in a field and you find a stone, you might assume it's just been there forever. But if you find a pocket watch lying in the grass, you pick it up. You see the gears, the springs, the glass face, the complex coordinated movement. You don't assume it has been there forever. You don't assume the wind and rain rustled some metal together and poof, a watch appeared.
You assume a watchmaker. Design implies a designer. It seems like common sense.
It does.
Okay.
But the counter-argument, famously from Richard Dawkins, is the blind watchmaker. He argues that natural selection, the process of evolution, given enough time, can mimic design without having a plan. It's an unguided process that filters out the failures and keeps the successes, creating complexity over millions of years.
True. But the sources hit back with a really powerful image from the astronomer Fred Hoyle to counter the sheer probability of that happening for the origin of life itself. He called it the junkyard tornado.
I love this visual because it exposes the massive mathematical problem. Hoyle, who was not a Christian, by the way, he was an atheist, argued that the probability of life forming by chance, Getting all the right enzymes, the proteins, the DNA, all in the right sequence purely by accident is roughly the same as a tornado sweeping through a junkyard full of airplane parts and accidentally assembling a fully functional Boeing 747 ready for takeoff.
That puts the chance theory into perspective. I mean, it requires more faith to believe in the magical tornado than it does to believe in an engineer.
That's his point. The complexity of even a single living cell is far, far greater than a 747. The odds are just astronomical.
Then you have another line of evidence, the anthropic principle, the idea that the universe is fine-tuned for life.
This is the Goldilocks universe. Everything is just right. If the force of gravity was slightly stronger, the universe would have collapsed back in on itself. If it was slightly weaker, stars and galaxies would never have formed. There are dozens of these cosmic constants that are balanced on a razor's edge.
Give me the water example from the text. I hadn't heard the specific one before, and it blew my mind.
It's amazing. It's about the specific heat of water. Water has an incredibly high capacity to absorb heat without its temperature rising dramatically. This allows our bodies, which are mostly water, to maintain a stable internal temperature.
Okay.
The text explains that if water's specific heat were slightly lower, simpler, like most other liquids, our bodies would literally boil over with the slightest exertion or change in outside temperature. The very properties of the water molecule seem to be precisely calibrated to allow for complex life like us to exist. The universe seems rigged.
Then there's the moral argument. This is classic C.S. Lewis's territory.
It is. Lewis observed that humans everywhere, across all cultures and all time, have this innate sense of right and wrong. He called it the law of human nature.
But people will argue that different cultures have different moralities. One culture says eat beef, another says that's a terrible sin.
They disagree on the details, sure, but not on the concept of a moral law itself. Lewis points out that when we quarrel, we don't just say, I don't like what you did. We say, that's not fair, or you promised, or how would you like it if I did that to you? We appeal to a standard that we expect the other person to know and acknowledge.
Right. Quarreling means trying to show the other man is in the wrong. You're appealing to a higher standard.
You're appealing to a higher court. And Lewis's argument is simple. If there is a universal moral law that cuts across cultures, basic things like don't be a traitor, don't be selfish in the extreme, be brave, there must be a moral lawgiver. You can't get a law without a legislator. A rock doesn't give you morality. Biology gives you instincts like self-preservation, but it doesn't give you ought. It doesn't tell you that you ought to risk your life to save a drowning stranger.
So we have the design of the universe pointing to a designer and the design of the human conscience pointing to a moral lawgiver. That just gets us to a God. It doesn't get us specifically to Jesus.
Correct. And that is a crucial next step. That's where we have to look at the distinctiveness of Christ and the Christian claim. We live in a pluralistic world. The common refrain is, all religions are basically the same. They're all just different paths up the same mountain.
The sources take a pretty hard line on this idea. They say that sincerity isn't enough.
It goes right back to the ice analogy, doesn't it? You can sincerely believe a bottle of poison is lemonade. You can drink it with total 100% faith. You can toast to your health. But your sincerity won't save you from the chemistry. The truth of what's in the bottle matters more than the sincerity of your belief about it.
And the text points out that the world's major religions make mutually contradictory claims about reality. They can't all be true.
It's just Logic 101, the law of non-contradiction. Jesus cannot be both the unique Son of God, as Christianity claims, and not the Son of God, as Islam teaches. He can't be the only way to the Father, as he claimed, and also just one of many avatars of an impersonal God, as some forms of Hinduism would suggest. Those are mutually exclusive claims. Someone is right, and someone is wrong.
Let's compare the concepts of God that are mentioned in the documents. It really highlights the differences.
Right. In Islam, God, or Allah, is profoundly transcendent and, in a sense, distant. The relationship is often described as master and slave. He is not a father in that intimate, personal Christian sense. In Hinduism and Buddhism, the ultimate reality is often an impersonal force, Brahman. The goal is to escape the self, to dissolve your individuality, not to have a personal relationship.
In Christianity.
The Christian concept of God is unique. He is both holy, meaning transcendent and high above us, and loving, meaning immanent and close to us. And he penetrated the finite world. He didn't just send a rule book or a set of principles from on high. He sent himself in the person of Jesus.
That leads to what I think is the best summary I've heard in a long, long time. The difference between duo and done.
This is a total game changer. The source quotes a Christian thinker named D.T. Niles. He said that most religion in the world is spelled D-O. It's about what humans must do. Rituals, good works, meditation, pilgrimage, to try and bridge the gap to God, to earn favor. It's a ladder we have to climb.
And it's exhausting. You never know if you've done enough. Have I been good enough?
Exactly. But Christianity, he says, is spelled D-O-N-E. Christ's work on the cross is finished. The bridge has been built from God's side to ours. We don't climb up. He came down. Grace is a gift to be received, not a wage to be earned.
That other quote is so powerful, too. It is just one beggar telling another beggar where to find food. That's the heart of evangelism, isn't it?
It takes all the arrogance out of it. It's not about us being better or smarter or more moral. It's about admitting we were starving and we found bread, and we just want you to have some too.
But even with all this evidence, the design, the morality, the uniqueness of grace, there is one massive stumbling block. The elephant in the room. The problem of suffering. The why question.
It is the hardest question. For believers and skeptics alike, the classic formulation is, if God is all good, he would want to stop evil. If he is all-powerful, he could stop evil. Evil exists. Therefore, is God bad, or is he weak, or does he not exist at all?
How did the documents tackle this dilemma? It's a huge one.
They start with the concept of free will. The argument is that God's highest creation was humanity, and his highest goal for humanity was love. But love, by its very definition, must be voluntary. It has to be a choice.
Robots cannot love.
Right, you can program a robot to say, I love you 1,000 times, but it means nothing. It's just code. To create a being capable of genuine love, God had to create a being capable of choosing not to love. That choice, that freedom, opens the door to the possibility of evil.
So evil is the terrible cost of love.
In a sense, yes. The potential for evil is the necessary byproduct of meaningful free will. And the text points out that a huge amount of the suffering we see in the world is the direct result of human choices. The drunk driver, the bank robber, the dictator who starts a war. We create so much of our own misery and then blame God for the messes we made.
But what about the innocent suffering, the things that aren't anyone's fault in that direct way? The tsunami, the earthquake, the cancer in a child, that's the part that's hardest to get your head around.
It is. And the documents talk about the big picture view, the idea of soul-making, that God can use suffering for our ultimate growth. There's an analogy used in the text. The same sun that melts the butter also hardens the clay.
It depends on what you're made of.
Or how you respond to the heat. Suffering can drive you into bitterness and despair, or it can drive you into a deeper dependence on God and forge character. But the ultimate Christian answer to suffering isn't a neat philosophical argument. It's the cross.
God didn't remain distant from our pain.
No other religion claims this. This is utterly unique. In other religions, gods might watch human suffering or sometimes inflict it. In Christianity, God entered into the suffering. He took the worst of it: torture, betrayal, abandonment, death upon himself. He isn't a distant spectator looking down on our pain. He's a fellow sufferer who has overcome it. That doesn't answer every why, but it changes the entire emotional landscape of the question.
So we've looked at the worldview matrix, the history of how we got here, the rational defense, and the problem of suffering. Now, let's land the plane. This is the core of our deep dive. How does all of this help? How does this help Christians live more fully devoted lives?
It connects theory to daily life in at least 4 major ways, according to the sources. First, intellectual confidence.
Knowing why you believe what you believe, not just what you believe.
Yes. If you know the ice is thick, you can walk confidently. You don't have to be shaken every time a skeptic writes a blog post or a coworker makes a snarky comment about religion at the water cooler. You know the foundations. You can begin to realize, hey, my worldview actually explains the flowers and the weeds better than yours does. It gives you a quiet confidence.
Okay, second, dealing with hardship.
This is huge. If you are a naturalist, suffering is just bad luck. It's a machine breakdown. It's ultimately meaningless. And that is such a heavy burden to bear, to suffer, and for that suffering to mean nothing. That's the definition of despair.
Yeah.
But as a theist, you see it as part of a larger narrative. There is a cosmic purpose. Even if you can't see it in the moment, it doesn't make the pain hurt less physically, but it makes the pain mean something. It can be redeemed.
Third, purpose.
Again, we come back to the stark difference between eat a good lunch, then die, and glorify God and enjoy him forever. That changes how you wake up in the morning. It changes how you approach your job. You aren't just earning money, you are serving God through your work. It changes how you parent. You aren't just raising survival machines to pass on your genes, you are raising eternal souls.
And finally, evangelism.
This is where the clash of worldviews matrix is so practical. When you understand that your neighbor is looking through the lens of naturalism or postmodernism, you stop just shouting Bible verses at them and expecting them to stick. It's like you're speaking different languages. You realize you have to address their filter first.
You have to help them see that their glasses might be cracked.
Exactly. You can listen better, you can ask better questions, you say there is no absolute truth, but you just said that racism is absolutely wrong. How does that work? You gently help them see the cracks and inconsistencies in their own wall. You're not just attacking their house, you're showing them that their foundation is unstable.
The documents address one last objection that I think is really common today, the Pavlov's dog objection.
Ah, yes. The idea that faith is just a conditioned reflex. You believe because you were raised to believe, just like a dog salivates when a bell rings because he's been conditioned to know that food is coming. It's just psychology.
So how does the text rebut that? It seems like a powerful argument on the surface.
It points out that conditioned reflexes can't explain the complexity of Christian history. They don't explain acts of heroism and self-sacrifice. They don't explain why someone would willingly die for their faith. And they definitely don't explain the radically changed lives of converts who had no prior religious background at all. People like C.S. Lewis, who was a hardened atheist, or the Apostle Paul, who was actively persecuting the church. Their conversions were the opposite of a conditioned reflex. They were a violent break from their conditioning.
The text mentions that the Christian life provides objective phenomena.
Yes, meaning observable effects. Courage, joy, peace, forgiveness in the face of horrible injustice. These are observable. You can see the change in a person's life. It's not just in their head. It works its way out into their hands and feet.
It's real ice. You can see that it holds people up.
It's real ice.
We have covered a massive amount of ground today. We moved from the matrix of worldviews through the history of how our culture lost the concept of absolute truth, all the way to the rational defense of the faith and its practical application.
It's a journey from confusion to hopefully a bit more clarity.
And I want to leave you, our listener, with a final thought drawn from the worldview statements slide in our source deck. It quotes the conductor from the movie The Polar Express.
Great movie. Tom Hanks in about 6 different roles.
Exactly. The conductor says, the thing about trains, it doesn't matter where you're going. What matters is deciding to get on.
That sounds very inspiring. Very Hollywood. It gives you a warm feeling.
It does. The music swells. It sounds like a great postmodern slogan. Just get on board. Just believe in something. Just have faith in faith itself. But if you really think about that for a second, does it really not matter where the train is going?
If the train is heading off a cliff or into a wall of nihilism, I'd say it matters a great deal.
If your worldview is the train you're on, the destination matters more than anything. We've looked at the destinations today. The bleakness of naturalism, which ends with anticipating a good lunch. The illusion of pantheism, which ends with you escaping reality by ceasing to be you. Or the hope and restoration of theism, which ends with enjoying God forever.
Check the destination before you punch your ticket.
Exactly. Don't just get on, know why you're writing. Thanks for diving in with us.
See you next time.